We'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome to the Tuesday, August 2nd council meeting of the City of Windom. First thing I have, I'd like to add one item. The council has that in front of them, as well as the media and anyone who picked up an agenda. We'd like to add the to item of a resolution to set a public hearing. This is for USDA funding on radios. This is a timing issue here, so we'd like to take care of that tonight. I'd like to add that after item number 3, after department heads. Does the council concur to add that to the agenda? That should probably be done by motion since it is a resolution.
I'd make a motion to include the resolution that is calling for a public hearing on an application with USDA for Emergency Services Radios Project.
I'll second.
Motion by Jason, second by Jim. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Tonight in the consent agenda, we have the council minutes from July 19th, HRA minutes July 13th and 25th, Utility Commission minutes of July 27th, licenses, amplification permits for First United Methodist Church of Windom, Cottonwood County Ag Society, tobacco license by Quick Trip, exempt gambling permit, Windom's Lion Club. Also included are the regular bills. Council wish to take action.
I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Marv, second by Lisa. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2, agenda request from Michael Bogle from 1453 4th Avenue, hazardous building order. Michael, please come up here, sit, state your name and address, and the rules of public comment are 5 minutes. Okay, it is yours.
My name is Mike Bogle. I live at 1453 4th Avenue, Windom, Minnesota. First of all, I want to apologize for not being here for the meeting where you originally voted on this order. We might have avoided this tonight. When the city council voted to raise my house, they were not aware that there were 2 new additions to the house that were not damaged by fire or water. The 7-year-old addition, about 18 by 12, has a full new basement under it, including footings. The back patio is a 1-year-old new lean roof, 15 by 18. It also houses the electrical panel and the electrical meter, which I need to run my freezers in my garage. I would like to salvage these 2 additions as part of future construction. I would also like to keep the basement for the same purpose. Any other parts salvageable could be determined by a structural engineer or Andy Spielman. My concern is that if the whole thing is raised, I would be homeless for probably quite a few years instead of maybe 1 at this point. My situation is already in the toilet. I'm just asking you guys not to flush it.
Anything else, Mike?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I do believe that it would be in the interest of the city to work with me because I don't think my property would be a good investment for the city.
Okay, we appreciate your comments tonight. The council will take that under advisement, and we thank you for being here tonight.
I also have a picture of the addition if anybody wants it. But I couldn't find the big one, but it's on my phone. But
You still have 2 minutes if you want to just pass it around. The council's not obligated to comment in any way. This isn't an action item tonight, so. Sure. And for the record, he did show the council a picture of the residence in question. Okay. With that, thank you for coming and presenting tonight. Thank you. Okay. Next item, department heads. You know you're on the agenda later too, right?
I know.
Okay.
John Nelson, liquor store manager. Wanted to update the council that we have one of our community involvement projects going on this month. From August 1st to September 11th. It's the 4th annual MMBA and Molson Coors Fire Department fundraiser. So what we're doing is we are raising funds. We're doing a Fill the Boot campaign. We got boots at our registers to collect money. That money will be turned directly over to the Windom Fire Department Relief Association. I'm also working with the Windom Fire Department to try to come up with some other fundraising ideas for them during this time.
Okay, thank you, John, for that update on fundraiser. And we appreciate the work you do with our local fire department. Thanks. Any other department heads? Seeing none, they're all going to wait for their turn on the agenda. Next, as indicated, we added this piece to the agenda. Steve, maybe you want to just give a quick background on the action item that we added.
Sure. There's a memo in the packet that kind of reviews this. At the July 19th meeting, we had a little bit of discussion on sale of THC products, which were becoming legal in Minnesota. There really wasn't a whole lot of regulation on it as far as licensing, things like that. Pretty much the only regulation on it as far as sale is it had to be to persons 21 and older. There wasn't discussion.
We added.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped ahead. I looked at my. All right.
No.
So
USDA.
USDA. All right. Thank you. USDA. I skipped ahead. So USDA setting a public hearing. Ed Gilmore from USDA contacted me Monday afternoon and wanted to know if we could set up a public hearing for August 16th. That's part of their process. This is the second grant application that we put in with USDA. We had budgeted some money for match last year in their capital improvement plan. The first project that came through were the fire department turnout gear. USDA did fund that, and that has been purchased, and we're moving forward with that. And they notified us that they will have some additional funding available, so they're looking at our second application for pre-app, which was radio equipment for the fire department and the Windom PD. And those were both in your CAP, your capital improvement plan. USDA thought they'd have between 50 and 60,000. They could commit 50 right now. That would require about 70,000 match from the city of Windom. With the new census data and other data, our match used to be 50-50 and now it's 60-40 because the financial condition of the residents of the city and the city were such that we qualified for a little bit less, but still 40% grant is a good chunk of funds. The estimated cost is going to be between $120 and $140. So I'll have to see what USDA does with that final budget, if he was able to wiggle some money, but we'll have that to you at a later date. When we do the public hearing, like I said, as part of their process, we'll have the operational budget with that letter of conditions, things like that, that you will approve at that meeting. So tonight's action is simply to set a public hearing for August 16th. We did have to go ahead and get the notice in the newspaper, so it will be in the newspaper tomorrow.
Any questions for Steve on that? Okay, a great opportunity again to get that radio project underway. So is the council wish to introduce the resolution?
I'd introduce the resolution calling for a public hearing on an application with USDA for Emergency Services Radios Project.
I'll second.
Introduced by Jason, seconded by Jenny. Any discussion or questions? Okay, pretty much same as last time. We'll ask for a roll call.
Nelson,
Yes.
Grunig,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Farig,
Yes.
Quaid.
Yes.
And that resolution carries. Thank you. And now, without further ado, Steve will continue on the THC.
Okay, yep, so my apologies, I jumped ahead. So anyway, as I was saying before, we had a discussion about this at the last meeting, and in order to develop some rules, maybe on licensing like we do for cigarettes, alcohol, those kind of things, we need to develop some rules, some regs. The state, as I mentioned, didn't really have a lot with it, so all the control's been left to the city. There are some concerns about, how do you protect minors and things like that with this product rolling out, because there isn't a possession age. You can sell to someone over 21 and over, but there's not a possession age. And so that could lead to some unforeseen consequences. And so one of the discussions you had at the last meeting was the possibility of putting in a temporary moratorium in order to either develop some rules on our own as far as regulations, licensing, or wait for the state legislature to act and enact some additional requirements. A number of cities are going through the exact same exercise we are now. I believe at the last meeting I talked to you about, Marshall had just enacted a temporary moratorium. A number of other cities have followed suit recently. The league is working with the sheriff's department and other groups to come up with some template rules and regs. This is something that can be done quicker than a year out, but we wanted to go for the year period of time so that if you wanted to wait for the legislature to act, they don't meet until January again or February, and then they adjourn in June. And so there would be a little bit of a time lag there to get those rules, regs, and then get those codified, which would bring us to about this year period of time. So that was the kind of the basis for the discussion on a possible moratorium. Of course, other options are you don't have to do anything. It's legal to sell in the state of Minnesota, and you can just simply just let it go and let the market dictate where it's going to go. Or you could just decide that you're going to adopt some rules as far as licensing, that kind of thing, and just leave it open-ended and go until those rules were codified. Now, that would not regulate anything going on just immediately, but it would take effect down the road at some point when an ordinance was brought forth, passed, published, that kind of thing. So we're talking about several months. And in the absence of general templates, we'd be basically starting from scratch and creating these things. So it'd probably take a little bit longer than a few months. So just to go through that process. So I guess we had discussion with the police chief, city attorney. Police chief is also in favor of having a temporary moratorium. That is our recommendation from staff. City attorney looked at it for the legality of it, and it's something that is within your powers granted by the city charter to take such an action should you so choose. So I guess I included some additional question-answer stuff that came out from the League of Minnesota Cities. It was 4 or 5 pages, but had quite a few good questions on it and answers, so I hope you were able to look through that. Just because it's legal in Minnesota, it is not legal nationally, so it obviously affects our CDL drivers and things like that, and so there are employment issues as well that need to be addressed as this rolls out. So, so anyway, that's kind of the background of it, and I guess if there's other questions, I can entertain those.
Steve, I'll just start with the question. Could you, and I know it was in here, is quote the charter for the reasons
Sure.
I just think that's important.
Yep, so the emergency ordinances and resolution section in 3.05 of the city's charter, so I'll just read the section. An emergency ordinance is an ordinance necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, moral, safety, or welfare in which the emergency is defined and declared in a preamble, and the resolution adopted by a vote of the majority of the council members. An emergency ordinance or resolution may be enacted at the meeting of which it is introduced and upon one reading thereof. Such emergency ordinance shall be published, but such ordinance shall take place immediately upon its passage and before publication. No grant of any franchise or sale, lease of any property shall be construed to be an emergency ordinance or resolution. So this gives you the ability to do it now. You could, do it at a future point effective as well, but if we're, if you're going to take that tack, then maybe looking at the licensing and all that kind of stuff and delaying it is your tack. So this is kind of more of an immediate step. The other one's an intermediate step, and then the last option is take no steps at all. So
At the last council meeting, we did ask Steve to bring back some options for the council. He has done that. I know there's questions from council members, and I would ask, does the council have any other options that they wanted to consider? Okay. Lisa?
Maybe the possibility is if you are going to allow it, maybe just allow certain stores to sell it, limit the sale of it rather than capping it all.
Thanks for the comment. Jason?
And I think because of the ambiguity to a certain point, we have the amounts that are allowed per package or per unit. I just feel like we don't have enough guardrails in place so that we can move forward prudently. And so I'd be in favor of putting a little halt on that so that we can get our ducks in a row so that we really know what's going on, what's going forward.
Marv?
The temporary would be 1 year, starting August 2nd.
it'd start immediately upon your passage
Yeah.
if you so chose.
Yeah, and that's consistent with other cities, correct?
And as you already stated, the 1 year moratorium would be the max. I mean, we could certainly get things together before that time and make a decision prior to that.
Yeah, if that's the direction of the council to start developing. If that's the direction of the council to start developing those rules, regs, licensing, absolutely, we can do that, like I said, on our own volition, or, we're trying to kind of maybe wait a little until some of the wheel helps get being invented. I know others, as I mentioned, other cities are going through this now and are working on that. I've reached out to a number of colleagues, and there's a working group at the league, and so I'm expecting something to be out much faster than a year. But in the event you wanted to wait, like I said, for state regulation on it, they don't get into session, as you know, until early next year and then adjourn mid-year. So that's why the year period of time was suggested.
Lisa, I seen your mic. Yep.
Sorry, just had a question. So this would just prohibit the sale here, correct? So if someone were to buy it in another city where they have allowed it and they have it here, there would be no consequence because they didn't purchase it here. But it's legal in the state, so they can have it.
That'd be correct.
Okay.
I guess I would like to see maybe a happy medium. I don't think we need to do a year or like up to a year, because I'm afraid that it'll get stretched out to the entire year like some other cities are maybe looking at. There's got to be some other cities that are in the same boat as us as, okay, we're going to go forward with this. What do we need to do? I mean, obviously, I would like to see that there's, a permit, just like you have to buy to sell tobacco or alcohol. You'd get a permit to sell it. That way we know who's selling it. We can check on that to make sure that it is the products that they're supposed to be selling and not something they're not supposed to be selling, and that it's geared towards, like the state already has laid out. It's not, geared towards kids. It's not sold to anybody under 21. It doesn't look like cartoon characters. They spelled out different things like that. So, we can go with that to begin with. And if the state has more parameters they put on it in the future, then that's what we do. We also can look at putting more parameters on it ourselves, like who sells it. Obviously, I wouldn't want to see like how you have a sweet corn pop-up salesman downtown. We don't want a pop-up edible store, just happening down on the street. So we need to have some things in place. So I think it would be good that we at least take time to have a couple meetings to decide what that is and set a permit price and set guidelines and those kind of things. But I don't see saying, no, let's wait up to a year to figure this out. I mean, it's passed by the state. And I guess I'm looking at just moving forward with it.
And if the council wants to hear my thoughts, I will share them. I do feel that this may be taken up by the legislature again. I strongly feel that it will happen. And I think there'll be changes. And or it could actually be terminated is the other option. And I'm really not in favor of cutting it shorter, starting now, going through that process. And I'd like to see the legislature at least get through part of their early year discussion. And because I just strongly feel that it could change. So that's my comments. Mark?
If we put the 1 year in place, can we come back at some point and lift the moratorium if everything was in place?
Yeah, you have that prerogative, and one of the provisions, in here is anticipation of state regulations prior to 1 year expiration of the emergency ordinance. The council may elect to act to conclude this emergency ordinance prior to its scheduled, completion, expiration. So I think you do have that ability to take it off. You had the ability to put it on, you have the ability to take it off. So, and that could either be when the legislature makes rules, or if you decide to do licensing permitting on your own, you can terminate this at that point in time. So, if it's for a period of a year or a period of up to a year, if you want to change that, wording in it, that's certainly your prerogative.
I guess my thought was that it already states that the council can remove it. I don't know why you would interject in the next sentence, I believe it was. But I'm not a lawyer. If you want to add it, it wouldn't hurt, I guess, to do it if you wanted to, but, yep.
There was a comment that was made.
Nope, I understand, for verification that it was up to. Jason?
And the League of Minnesota Cities, they will, like you mentioned, they're going to come up with some type of guideline probably long before the new legislative session starts. I would imagine they have something.
They're actively working on it, but I also imagine there's a number of other communities that will also invent this wheel that are, working on it quite diligently right now. I have a couple of colleagues in the metro that are working on it. I've asked them, as soon as you have something, please send it so I can get a look at it and get it out to you guys to consider, so one way or the other. But I think it will be coming. It's just, what you wanted and what you would like to do, so.
And I do think that there are a number of questions, like the whole list of them encompassed different arenas of thought, not just with the places of selling, but other fringe issues like where the product comes from and a lot of other things. I just think it's good to flesh out those things, and I'm not so much caught up on the time, but I would like to see us have the option of up to a year, just because I know how things develop, and I wouldn't want to do something half-cocked. I want to make sure that we have something solid going forward. And
I would also add one other comment. because this could be a philosophy type issue, you know, in the future. Well, it is now, okay, within our community even. You know, that's something that, you know, the council may hear from constituents on this. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And I see we have a hand up in the audience. We normally do not take public comment unless it's at the table. The council would have to take, amend the rules to do that. But I think that, and I think that, you know, the community has opportunity to talk with council members. That's what you guys are there for. And, you know, nobody thought this would be easy, but I did see the hand up. I'll just ask the council.
Just to note, it does not prohibit prescription sales,
Right.
you know.
And
This-
that's
this
a good
This is
note.
the, you know, so,
And-
or it's the CBD oil, which is currently on the market, which has a trace of THC in it, so. And
Right.
So if you wanted, I would just say, you know, the ordinance doesn't say exempts prescription, that's in the law, but if you wanted to be more explicit in the ordinance to make sure that that is called out, then that would certainly be a change you could make as well, just for your benefit.
And that is state law. Does the council see a need for adding it in there for prescription medications?
I personally do not. I think it
already-
is clear enough, and it's already kind of established.
Because
protocol.
you'd have to basically verbatim is put it in there according to state law and cite that if you were going to, so it's there. Okay, okay. Okay. Anything else from the council?
Do we know any surrounding communities? I mean, all I've heard is Marshall did the moratorium as far as, you know, like any communities within the, like an hour radius of us, have they had this on their council agenda, and what are their thoughts or plans?
I know of one of the communities asked for a copy of ours because they're planning on following us. It's a smaller community by us. I don't know what Worthington has done. I haven't talked to them, but I believe they were looking at seeing what everybody else was doing too. It's kind of a wait and, you know, let's see what others are doing, and hopefully somebody, you know, comes up with a, you know, very good solution, and others will jump on board, but the time is short, and so.
And one reason why I'm in favor of a moratorium doesn't, in my mind, doesn't have to be a year, but I like that option, is also because the public would really be interested in knowing some specifics and having some clear guidelines instead of having some people test the fence in the meantime, and then we're stuck with a situation where we have something that's ongoing. Well, it's the law in Minnesota, and then inside of city limits, you know, we don't have anything yet, so I think it provides us with a temporary guardrail just so we can get things shored up properly and done the right way, so that we're not inhibiting freedom, but we're also not causing unnecessary confusion.
I guess my thought is, why not just test the waters? You know, like Jenny said, have the limited people selling it. It's a low percentage, and are we overthinking it? Like, everyone's going to rush out and buy it. It's a low percentage. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at as the fact of like alcohol, and I honestly think that marijuana is going to come legal anytime soon. Other states have done that and pulled themselves out from debt. I don't know. I think that the limited sale of it, just to test the water.
Can I ask you who you'd want to limit it to? Because right now it's a legal retail product. So we have alcohol limited, you know, by state statute on numbers of bars, full liquor licenses we can have. The city is the only off-sale spot you can have, but there is no cap on cigarette licenses. Anybody could sell it if you go through the licensing process, type of a thing. So, I know that there's CBD oil sold in different types of businesses. So I'm just asking for some guidance if that's the way you guys are going. I guess I'd like to know so we can start looking at it, and how can you say this business can or this business can't, or limit numbers of licenses. Like I said, that's in state statute, and we're absent of that here. So there's some work to do on that. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I just get some guidance from you so I know which track to go down.
Does the city have a limit on the number of liquor licenses? Like for establishments selling liquor?
For on sale, yes. It's by state statute. A city of this size can have this many licenses. Off sale, the city is the only one.
Right. So couldn't we do that in the same sense, where maybe you have 3 licenses, or to start, but not a liquor store?
We'd have to start researching that, because how do you say who can and who can't? The legislature set that on the bar stuff. We just take them, kind of as a first come, first served type of thing, but we have a finite amount of licenses. So.
And it would have to be an establishment that would be very capable, where that they're going to check the age, so that they are going to check the IDs for the 21. Because like with cigarettes, are you issued any sort of citation if you're caught with a cigarette and you're not 21, or is it 18, 21?
Can't sell them. That's where the license is. And enforcement of possession is a different issue, but there is no possession limit in this reg, the state statute. So that's what part of the gray area comes. So there's a little bit of work that needs to be done, and that's fine. It just, it's not we'll just limit it to 3 and here you go.
If we start thinking about testing it and everything, should we also think about what are we doing to the PD? How are they, what are they going to go by? I guess I don't know.
That's a good point. I was also thinking, not just from the community, but from the PD, from other sources. There's a lot of different thoughts out there. I know a lot of people are in favor, a lot of people are not. And I do think that's why I was thinking about the moratorium. It's just good because we need to flesh out some of those things so that we have something more concrete. Because right now we just have some ideas, and I don't know if that's completely fair to those who are interested highly as well, because I want to have something that will, that will be something they can count on, so that they know exactly what's happening. That's why I'm in favor of that little waiting period.
And my thought is too, it's like, how is it any different if they're going to catch someone for drinking or on meth or marijuana or whatever? Why would those be any different? Wouldn't it be the same type of effect, the same what am I looking for, the signs, or the same signs of them, of a person being on something?
They're not completely the same. I've done a little bit of research in this, and there is some difference, and it's a little harder, I think, with the marijuana thing, with the THC, from what I've read.
I'm going to make one more comment, I think, and carefully state this, is that I honestly do not think the entire legislation that was passed knew this was in the bill. Okay? I'm just going to throw that out there. I do not think they knew what was voted on and what was incurred. That's part of my reason for saying there could be a legal legislation change in what is currently law. Okay? And, I also feel strongly that I hope residents contact council members. And, and I'm just fine with changing that language for up to. I'm fine with that. But to take that off, the council will have to act, again, if this is passed. Regardless, the council has to act to take it off. So, this is an important thing, and it's somewhat unknowing. And I think I think it does meet the conditions of our charter, because as we're discussing right here, we're unsure. That was, in the charter, which establishes the cases we can do this. And I don't think a do-nothing approach is the right answer. I think we all need to learn more about this. The first time, I bet I didn't know it until really, I don't know, what was it, 2 months ago? Maybe that, oh, by the way, this legislation was passed and they're stocking our shelves. So, I think this is a timeout. Let's find the answers to the good questions the council brought up. So, that's where I'm at, so.
And one more thing, and the suggested proposed wording for an ordinance, part of it says it's to protect the planning process, because there are people that are going to have opinions as to where things are, why they're there and not there, and a lot of other things. Public health, there are some questions. There's a great book called Tell Your Children, which has some stuff about THC that some people may not be aware of. Safety, we still have some unknowns there. Neighboring properties, economic viability, well, we know that it's going to bring some profit. Public assets, general welfare of the city. So I just think it's, again, I know I said it twice, but I think it would be prudent just to take a pause, and we can always, address it sooner than later, and then make sure that we're addressing all the questions and give the public a chance to do this, because as you had mentioned, the language was, from what I understand, kind of rather last minute in the legislative session in the last days. So I know that these things can get in there, and they don't worry about the bureaucratic, issues it creates. They just create legislation. So.
Final comments. Hearing none, does the council wish to take action on the resolution with any modifications should be mentioned in the motion?
I would be comfortable introducing an ordinance for the city of Windom, Minnesota, providing for a moratorium up to a year on the sale of THC products and the issuance of regulations and licenses to preserve public health, moral safety, or welfare.
And I went second.
That motion was introduced by Jason, seconded by Monmouth. Any further discussion after the motion and second was made? Okay, and there might be differing opinions. I'm going to ask for a roll call. I think I have that ability. Okay. Steve, roll call.
Okay. Quaid,
No.
Nelson,
Yes.
Grunig,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Faring.
No.
Motion prevails 3-2. Thank you. I didn't want to decipher the yeses and the nos, and I know this is a topic that people feel passionate about, and I encourage the public to also take the opportunity, find out about it, and let your councilmen and women know.
Does
Steve.
the council have, thank you, Mayor, does the council have direction to staff to start working on rules, license, regulations, that type of thing? Or are you going to want to wait for legislative action, or kind of what are your thoughts? Or do you want me to report back to you in a month and see where things are at and just return to this and give you an update, or what would you like?
I would like to see actually a monthly update.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I think we need to go month by month and see what changes, where we can go. And just a quick comment off of what Lisa said when you were asking about where to sell and stuff. I really think it should follow kind of like the tobacco permits, because I think that the edibles need to be kept behind the counter, you know, just like tobacco is now. It's kept not out in the aisles, so it can't be shoplifted easy, those kind of things. So it needs to be kept like that. You need to show an ID no matter what age you are to get it, so that you show your age. And then ultimately to the public, just, you know, thinking of this overall, if people are worried about like kids getting it, those kind of things, you know, we all need to parent, and we need to be adults, and we need to parent and set examples. So just like an adult that goes out and buys beer and has it in their fridge needs to make sure their kid is not accessing that and knows that that's not something for them or not healthy for them at their age. So just, you know, overall in the general public, just have some education with, you know, children too, or teenagers when we're, you know, discussing this and looking at this issue.
For me, as long as the public has the opportunity to be involved and make comments not just to city council but to other city employees that are appropriate and just to each other, and as long as we cover all our bases, I'm comfortable with coming up with something sooner than later. I don't have no compulsion to wait the full year at all. I want to make sure we're doing it right if we do it.
And the nice thing about it, is that, you know, these products are supposed to, the material is supposed to be coming from Minnesota, so it'd be manufactured here, and it's something where when you purchase it, you know what's in it. It's not something off the street, and you wouldn't know what may be in it, but buying it would be relatively safe.
Because a lot of cities in Minnesota have had this particular conversation. I think, like the mayor does, is that the legislature will have to again take a look at it. So I wouldn't be rushing too fast to get out in front of it. So I would kind of wait a little bit anyway.
I would hesitate, like I said, to make a decision prior to the legislature taking some type of action. But the council can bring this up, you know, at any time. So, okay. All right. Thank you. That was good discussion. I appreciate everybody's opinions on this. Okay. Moving on to Small Cities Development Grant Amendment. And this is actually the second time I believe we've done this, right, John?
Jim, maybe? Yes.
What? See, John comes to so many meetings and asks for help. I'm sorry, Jim. Okay. Thank you. Please turn on your mic, and you got the mic.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor and council members and administrator. The first time you saw this, it was granted, awarded to the city in 2018 for $418,600 for housing rehab programs. And that grant period was to expire on September 30th, 2021. But then, as you all know, COVID-19 struck, slowed down, all of the housing process, and we really didn't receive very many applications in that time period. So it made sense to extend the program a little bit, and so the council approved of the grant amendment request to deed to extend it for another year to September 30th, 2022. And also in late of 2021, we did receive more applications. And it should be noted that there are actually not funding new applications. These are applications that need more time to get through the process, is basically what this is. So we think that the end of this year, 2022, December 30th, 2022, will give us that sufficient time to get through the whole process. So with that, staff is requesting the council approve of a request to deed for a second extension of the Small Cities Development Program, completion date until December 31st, 2022. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to respond.
I think that that's great that we're extending that, because I know, people that did apply for that, and it was hard, because it was hard to, maybe get the materials, or it was hard to find workers that were available because everybody was backlogged. So I think that's excellent that we can extend that and give people an opportunity to get some of these projects done.
Yep.
So thank you.
And it's an income eligible program, so those folks don't have a lot of avenues or funding mechanisms to fund the homes, and so they still have to put 30% of their own funding into it. But it's been a good program. Almost any city will tell you that they use the funds completely, and it's been a very good program for housing rehab.
Any questions for Jim? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the extension to December 31st, 2022.
Second.
Motion Jenny, seconded by Jason. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next we have the Cottonwood County Law Enforcement lease for the police department. And this is a memorandum of understanding. Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. We've had a long-term arrangement with the Law Enforcement Center, essentially since it was constructed, to house the Windom PD. We pay monthly rental on that space. In the memo in the packet, I put in the history of that rental. This year, they did notify us that they're looking for a $100 increase, which will bring it to $2,050 per month. It's been at $1,950 a month for the last 3 years, 20, 21, and 22. We did move downstairs, I believe, in 20 and 18. In 18 is when we moved downstairs, which enlarged the space that we're occupying in that building. So I think this lease rate is probably a reasonable amount to pay. We can budget for it for 2023. I know on the tour, you all had a tour of that space, and maybe looking at some longer term options for things to do as the county is looking at their building and looking what they want to do in the future. But this will get us through at least the next year until that lease is due, and then we'll have another discussion with the county at that point. So,
Is that effective immediately?
be effective January 1.
Any questions? Is there a motion to approve the MOU with Cottonwood County?
Well, based on the increase in square footage, it seems fair enough, so I'd make a motion to approve the lease.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Marv, seconded by Jason. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Personnel hiring. John, you're up again. We have some requests for some part-time liquor store clerks.
Correct. John Nelson, liquor store manager. Myself and 2 members of the Liquor Commission, Jenny Quaid and Lisa Farag, are recommending the hiring of 4 individuals. Over the last 3 months, I believe we had advertisement out there and we received 7 applicants. Out of those, we were able to get 5 interviews. From there, we decided on 4 individuals that would help us out. We have been running into some staffing shortages at times, so we feel with adding these 4 would help bridge some of those gaps. So I'm recommending Jennifer Elness at $12 an hour. That's year 1, but it's a little less than the year 1 start, halfway in between the scale and the seasonal part-time scale. And then Jeremiah Huff, Michaela Myers, and Bryce Sugden, all at the $11 an hour, with a pending 6-month review, in which they could potentially go to $11.75. All of these are budgeted hours of store operations, so the only cost would be some extra training time for each individual.
And the $12 an hour was because of experience?
Correct. She has previous experience in alcohol sales. So,
Is there a motion to that effect?
Just a question, John. How many hours would one of these new hires actually work in a week?
it varies. The union agreement prevents non-union part-time employees from working over 14 hours a week.
I guess,
And that's over a 12-week or 26-week period. Yeah. Okay. So they can work more, but then work less, as long as it doesn't average more.
okay, correct, so you can, move around schedules, make it work with these hires. I can attest that John is short on staff. He was working Sunday afternoon, which I never see him in there on Sunday afternoon. So with that, is there a motion to approve the request of the 4 hires as mentioned under the terms?
I would make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion Jenny, seconded by Lisa. Any discussion?
I just think I want to point out that, we hire a lot of people part-time. I think it's good that we're hiring a bunch here, but you got to know that a lot of people that work at the liquor store part-time have other full-time jobs. So to say, it looks like a lot, but on the other hand, how many people want to work like when they work a full-time job every other weekend or every weekend at the liquor store? So a lot of these people, it's not going to be like they're working every weekend. So that's nice that we're going to have a more pool to draw from so people don't feel like they have to be every weekend there. So very good that we have some.
I would agree, and we're ready to vote on the motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, John. Or is that Jim? Next, part-time office assistant. We have new information that was included on the table and in the packets back there. And I'm going to just turn it over to Cheryl, who can explain the process that you went through or whatever you feel like sharing, and we'll let you take the floor.
Cheryl Alforts, Finance Director. Myself and 2 other staff members interviewed 9 people. We had an opening since April 13th when Portia Porath resigned from her position for other reasons, and it's been a long 3.5, 4 months trying to find someone. We recommend Taylor Dambroten, who has various customer service background, also a small amount of City Hall experience. We would like to recommend hiring her at step 2 with the potential advancement to step 3 with a favorable 6-month review.
Any questions for Cheryl? It's been a long process. I'd entertain someone to make that motion before they change their mind.
I'd make a motion to accept this new hire of Taylor Dambroten.
And I would second.
Motion by Jason, seconded by Marv. Any other discussion or questions on the process? Okay, with the conditions as stated in your packet and by Cheryl, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Cheryl. Okay, new business. Old business? Anything, Steve? Jenny has something.
I'm just wondering if we've had any interest or anything in our EDA/assistant administrator, where we're at with that, because I feel like that we've had out there forever, and, I thank Jim for hanging in there, but I don't know. I'm just, if we could twist his arm to just be permanent. But where are we at, if we had any movement on that or interest?
The interview team was provided the 4 applications that we have. There's a difference of opinion on the quality of those applications, and I will leave it at that.
I would concur with Steve. Personnel Committee Chairman, any comments?
I guess we'd like to just see some little better applicants.
And when we added the administrator part of it, I think it encouraged a few. And I think, I hope that there's someone out there that will fit the niche. And at the wages that, that fits in there, I'll just say it, I think it's hard to, with not experience in that field, it's a hard thing to find right now. So, are we, I guess a question, are we good on the current advertisement that we have out? Can that stand until filled, or how are we gonna do that, Steve?
Yeah, it's been extended open till filled, and then we also extended our reach into Iowa and South Dakota leagues. So we tried to push it out a little further, so.
Is there any way we could look at doing some kind of paid internship and looking at people near college graduation and offering a paid internship to come and try it out? I don't know, just throwing things out there.
Yeah, I don't think that's a terrible idea, but, yeah, and, well, I agree. But, well, Steve's idea is that we refer that to personnel, and we'll discuss that option. I do think if that's like an internship, the wages would have to be, something less than what we're advertising. So Marv will take that under advisement or consideration, and we'll talk about it. Okay, Jason.
At what point would we spread a net wider? Like we have some more states, which is great. Is there some national type of web?
Well, part of the applications, I can say, came from a long ways away. It's not just applicants from here, or even the United States. So, I mean, it spreads. It's out there.
Oh, okay.
So,
I had it on LinkedIn and some other places, some other platforms, but
Can we advertise in Chickasaw?
any other old business? Good question. Lisa?
I just was questioning, was that listed on Indeed?
not in Indeed. I had it on LinkedIn. Indeed gets $39 a day, every day. I did have that conversation with them and reached out to some other communities that did it, and they said it's extremely expensive.
We would have quite an investment already. But, yeah. But if you get a good applicant, I would ask that same question next meeting. So, unless you want to, if you want to proceed, I guess it's your option. with that, but I guess I'm not familiar with other sites at all.
Another question too, for Jim. I suppose, does he have a terminus by like a certain date? Then if we haven't found someone, then, regrettably, do we know anything like that? Was it years, a decade?
Don't ask him.
Okay, all right. All right.
Is that fair enough? I don't want to speak for you. I don't want to speak for you, but we're not going to put him on the spot. I think we know his intent. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other old business? Okay. Hearing none, let's go to council comments. Guess who I'm going to let go first because I avoided her last meeting. Go ahead, Jenny.
I don't have anything looking out in the future. I just thank everyone that came down tonight for Night to Unite tonight. It was a hot one, but we feel like we did have a decent crowd down there. I've apologized to the people sitting next to me. I've been out in the sun all afternoon and evening, and so I know I stink. And I've been drinking water like crazy, trying to stay hydrated. But I just loved meeting all the people downtown and seeing people out and about. And just interacting, and so thank you very much to the community, and I look forward to next year, and hopefully it's not as hot.
Lisa.
I would also like to add on to what Jenny said. I had a very good time tonight going down there. Ivy did a great job serving, and with the chamber helping out with that as well. And it was just the law enforcement and all the people. That was nice to have all them out there, and I stayed way longer than I planned, but I survived because it was hot. But you go out there and you wind up talking to a lot of people, and it was just a lot of fun. So I appreciate everyone that participated.
Jim?
Yeah, I feel the same way. A little warm out there tonight, too, but otherwise it was fantastic, I think. I was going to make another comment, but I'm not going to. Not about that.
Okay, you cut us off. Now you have my curiosity up, Jim. Marv? Nothing. Jason?
Yes, I have a few things. I think it's exciting that Quick Trip is just days away. What's the date that we don't know?
Early September.
Early September, okay. We're just days away. That is so exciting to see that thing going up, and it's a great addition to our neighborhood. Night to Unite was a lot of fun. It was extremely hot, but it started cooling down after 5:30, which is nice. Great time connecting with the community. Obviously, we all know a lot of people, and just nice seeing people out and about. I just want to remind people that next Tuesday, August 9th, is the Minnesota primary, and so get out there all day long and exercise your civic duty. And have a great week.
Thank you, Jason. Steve, anything tonight?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Well, I'll fill in for you. Once again, everybody else feels the same way as I think Night to Unite. Yes, it was warm, but they pulled it off, had a reasonable crowd, and I think the kids, I do not know how they can do that in this heat, but they were jumping in the games and in the corn, completely covered up and all that. I think, they had a blast. They didn't notice anything, and so I feel your pain being out there, but thank you, and thank Tyann, the chamber group, for that organization on the correct Night to Unite, as I understand it. I'm glad the council started a little bit later. I think that's all good. And I do want to say that, this night is for sure appreciation also, and to our firemen. And I got my badges on. I told them I'd wear them tonight. Our law enforcement, thank you. Job well done by all the departments, including Cottonwood County, the sheriff's office, our Dustin Miller was there from the DNR conservation officers, and our EMTs, emergency responders people, got theirs on too, along with Paw Patrol. So thanks to everyone. I think that was a good event and look forward to it again next year. So
I just want to say one thing before you adjourn here, that I did happen to see a former mayor in the corn box. Actually in the corn box, so just, for next year,
please
I'm
mention his or her name.
I did see, I think I have a picture possibly as well.
We'll encourage you to share that as you want to. So that's good to hear. Thanks for that, Mayor, for showing up at the Night to Unite. So with that, I think we're good. We're adjourned by unanimous consent. Thank you.